Christ's victory over the grave and over sin is the most appealing aspect of the gospel. It gives us hope beyond this life. But the scriptures also teach that there is a very definitive point in time when we are able to enjoy and participate in this victory with Christ. That just because Christ died for all mankind does not universally apply that victory to all mankind, but it must be accepted by faith. And even though it isn't universally applied, it is universally offered to all mankind. And those of us who have participated in and taken part in that victory have so much joy and so much peace and so much encouragement in every promise that God has ever made. In Romans chapter 6, it's a very familiar passage. It teaches about this point in time, this very definitive point in time when we participate with Christ in this victory. It's at baptism when we were, in verse 5, united with Him in a death like His. We were also united with Him in a newness of life like His. In verse 6, at that time our old self, that definitive point in time, our old self was crucified, or we died with Him, so that the body of sin might be brought to nothing. And we're no longer enslaved to sin. We have that victory, but it's at this definitive point in time. The one who has died has been set free from sin, no longer having dominion over us. If we've died with Christ, we live with Christ. Christ will never die again because death no longer has dominion over Him. We consider ourselves, because of this fact, dead to sin and alive to God. We cannot go about our lives with an attitude of being able to sin continually so that God's grace may increase. This is the exact point that the Apostle Paul is trying to address and refute. But those who have been brought from death to life present ourselves to God as living sacrifices and instruments for righteousness. Now, this is that definitive point in time when we enjoy that victory over death and sin. In 1 Corinthians chapter 15, Paul says there that death's sting is sin. The power of sin is the law, but God gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. This victory can only be enjoyed through Jesus. And what better way to go through Jesus than to go through His death and through His burial and through His resurrection? This is that point in time when death is arrested, when death is swallowed up in victory, and when our life truly is able to begin. 1 Corinthians 15 is talking about the point in time when Christ returns and we put on the imperishable immortality. But in a sense, in a very real and spiritual sense, at baptism, death is swallowed up. The sting of death is swallowed up there as well when we are raised in newness of life and able to enjoy the victory that overcame the grave. And that's what I want you to think about when you listen to this song today.
Alone in my sorrow and dead in my sin, lost without hope with no place to begin. Your love made a way to let mercy come in. When death was arrested and my life began, ash was redeemed, only beauty remains. My orphan heart was given a name. My mourning grew quiet, my feet rose to dance. When death was arrested and my life began. Oh, your grace so free washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. It's your endless shame was a ransom he faithfully bore. He canceled my debt and he called me his friend. When death was arrested and my life began, oh, your grace so free washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. It's your endless love pouring down on us. You have made us new, now life begins with you. Our Savior displayed on a criminal's cross. Darkness rejoiced as though heaven had lost. But then Jesus arose with our freedom in hand. That's when death was arrested and my life began. Oh, your grace so free washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. It's your endless love pouring down on us. You have made us new, now life begins with you. Oh, we're free, forever we're free. Come join the song of all the redeemed. Yes, we're free, forever, amen. When death was arrested and my life began, oh, we're free, forever we're free. Come join the song